So I'm still playing with watches and looking at everything. If I don't do this, if I don't like go through my watches and just kind of poke at them and look at them, it's not that I forget about them, but I sort of lose my connection with them, which I don't want to do. So sometimes I take things out and I just look them over, make sure, things look okay, and sort of touch base, if you will. It's a pretty nice range of divers. I think that could pretty well suit me. But it's interesting to me. I've been thinking about this round of divers and how much I love these big cushion cases and how elegant they are. But oh, wait a second. And then I finally got back into the 6205's game after owning them and selling every single one. This one really kind of spoke to me, and it just came together. The watch was intact and complete, and it was from India, but the case was actually in pretty decent condition. That's the original dial. And whoever was the owner, who was the original owner, started having some loom moisture problems, so they just went in and just put this sort of satin clear coat over everything. And I got it. And you look at these, when you hold one of these, there's just such a special watch. It's such a special watch model. But this is the first one where I really felt that. God, it's such an elegant watch. So old school and tooly with the bubbled acrylic crystal. These are beautiful. They are beautiful. But I think the revelation that I've come to is that the slim case 6105 is my favorite. I think it's so beautifully balanced. It's so perfectly done. It's not, old enough that it looks sort of vaguely anachronistic. A diver back far enough and it looks kind of clunky. Doesn't look new enough like this. It was designed in the 60s, but it was produced in the 70s, and everything in the 70s got kind of big. This is sort of straddles both eras perfectly. It's an elegant, functional design, and I don't know, every time I look at it, I find new things to admire. The equal ellipses, the beautiful crown cutout, the even sides, the way this thing has this sort of, I wouldn't even call this a cushion case. I don't know what you call it, but it hugs the wrist perfectly. It has great ergonomics. I love the visual split here of the rotating ring. And it's got the classic, of course, 6105 dial. And here I think it works perfectly. Perfectly. The size of the hands related to the size of the case, it's perfect. I just think the balance is great. When Seiko, so all of these were designed by the same design team. I can never remember the gentleman's name, and I always am mad at myself for not writing it down. But he did all of these, including the 6309. So they had this. Oh, that was a service hand. That came with this. That's a legitimate service hand. I left it on there. I think it's unique and cool. This, by the way, is the rarest of these. It's a 6105 8009 resist. Right? Is that? Or is the 6000? Is 6105 8009 proof? One of them is insanely rare. Anyway, but it doesn't really matter. Anyway, so you got. Because kind of my issue with these hands, they're beautiful, but they kind of vanish sometimes to me with the high polish, and all you see is the loom. But here, they look balanced to me. And so the next model is basically the same thing, just on steroids. Bigger rotating ring. Now it indexes. You've got a locking crown, which is just a pin in the case, which slots into one of these things. This watch is completely original and unrestored. I bought this from the original owner. My current plan on this is to leave it exactly as it is. I mean, how many more of these are there going to be, that, in the old days, you could find watches like this all day long, and I probably still could, but the day's going to come when one of those completely unrestored is going to be neat. Okay, so everything's the same under the dial, under the crystal, and you've got these thin hands. Now, the hands here, the lume was already kind of overmatched by the size of these lume plots, right? But, I mean, it balanced out. It was fine. At least the case wasn't too big. This, you got this bigger case with these same size mismatch of these markers. Not mismatch, but, these are larger. This is thinner. But the hands in the bigger case, to me, they just kind of get lost. But that's just my opinion. Okay, just my opinion. So there's another. I like watches that have a little bit of acquired personality. This was another watch that I got. I got this on eBay a while ago, and it looked rough, and people were avoiding it because it has a 6309 handset. And I looked at it, I'm like, those are service hands, and that insert is good, and that dial is good. And I got this for what I considered a relative bargain. I mean, it's a little hazy. I need to clean it up. But that's all original lume, and that was, in fact, a service handset. But then I was looking at these, and I'm like, well, I look at the shapes on this one. Look at actually how much more legible the watch is. Now remember, these were all designed by the same team. I sometimes wonder if this kind of handset wasn't the plan for these bigger 6105s, and for some reason they decided to stick with the old ones. It wouldn't be, I mean, I wouldn't put it past, God damn. I mean, I wouldn't have put it past Seiko to, wanted to save a few pennies and just using the existing handsets. Maybe they had a ton of them. I mean, that's a stupid theory. There's nothing to base that on, but to me, just when I saw this watch, it was just, I don't know, it just looked clear to me that's the way it works. All the proportions work. You've got that, where am I going here? The base of the triangle is, well, it doesn't perfectly match it, but it's real close. The length is just the same, but you have this triangle, glowing triangle then, occluding the marker, but it's showing little triangles in the middle. That one, again, goes right over the markers. I don't know, just all these geometric shapes and the overall proportions, to my eyes, this works a whole lot better. But that's just me. A lot of people would dig the classic, just as I do. But that one's mine. I love that one. I love it. Yeah. It's just so elegant. So it's not too high. It's really simple. It's a really, really clean design. And, this isn't the correct bracelet for it. This is a bracelet made for Seiko by Stellux. But it's not supposed to be on here. But I've never found a bracelet that worked on one of these. But this fish scale, Stellux sure does. They're just beautiful. They're elegant and simple, very clean, absolutely functional. It's just, and it jumps out. It's so unique. It's so much more special and unique to me than this Rolex. Though I do love the Rolex, but I always felt it was like a little fussy. Like the little markers were too small. I couldn't see the sweep hand as well. And I mean, it's a beautiful watch, and when I wear it, I'm like, oh my God, I love this watch. But this one, I love it all the time. When it's on my wrist and when it isn't. Anyway, so there you are. There's my favorite of the 6105 models. But now, speaking of 6105 models, here's a treat. Going through all my crap, and I found what's actually kind of a rare watch. Notice it is a C-line M88. Do you see the make there, or the casing number and everything? 6105 8100. This is a 6105 dress watch. It's unrestored. It's got these little sort of, they look like molars to me, these little tooth markers. It's got those beautiful sort of faceted flat hands. It's a lovely watch, it really is. But they didn't make very many 6105 dress watches. I don't know why. And a lot of them that were around were cannibalized for their movements. This does that shift thing where the way the dial goes with its sort of patternings versus the high polish, as you go back and forth, the hands, they'll change almost like polarity. And the case does that too with its brushing. It's really just a feast for the eyes. This is the original Stellux bracelet. It's tiny. There's no chance, not a chance, I would ever be able to wear this thing. I think Sabrina, it might be loose on Sabrina. But isn't that pretty? It's unrestored. That crazy silver gray on gray on gray. It's an elegant watch. Anyway, that's it fooling around for stuff. All right, bye.